The narrative for this story goes thusly. I bought an engine stand from Jegs. Didn't know what kind of bolts I needed, so I initiated a chat session. They said, hey, yeah, you need this bolt kit. And I said, hey, will that fit my small block Ford? And they said, why, yes. So I bought it. Turns out the bolts are too small. So the engine sat on the floor in my garage. I was too lazy to do anything else because I had too much happening. Am I going to have enough? I did not get into any kind of a hurry because I figured, I'll just walk down to the store or drive down to the store and pick up a set of bolts at the Home Depot. Well, the Home Depot near me doesn't have 7/16 14 thread per inch bolts. So I figured, hey, it's an automotive thing. I'll go down to O'Reilly and pick some up. Well, O'Reilly didn't have any either. So I go down to the other places. They don't have any either. So I had to make do with something else. Yeah, don't worry, I'm wearing steel toes. I don't quite trust this 2-ton hazard freight come along I'm using. So I have unearthed that. Suppose you guys all know how it goes. You buy an elliptical or a treadmill or some other piece of exercise equipment. It winds up being a collector for junk. Winds up being a clothes rack instead of an exercise machine. Well, I've had to dig that out and that out because they were acting as a repository for junk. And I'm using the come along tied to a beam in my garage because I think everybody knows that engine hoists and engine stands are right around the same height. And you can't get an engine off a hoist onto a stand safely and easily. I tried this last time with dodgy bolts that were too small and pushed the engine stand off of the hoist and the thing fell over. And I managed to catch it and right it and nothing got hurt. And promptly it started to fall off because the bolts are too small. But I've used a come along to that beam and hoisted it up. And now the whole thing's floating in the air. So now I need to let it down nice and easy. For the record, come alongs freak me out. All the noise from the cable squeezing and yeah, picking stuff up with it's not so bad. It's the setting of the stuff down that really gets me. So I'm at the AutoZone and I'm looking for bolts and I need 7/16 14 thread per inch, 3.5 inch long, and they don't have any. So I bought 2 5-inch bolts and 2 4-inch bolts, 7/16, and I figured I can run it through a die, run the threads further down, use a washer and a nut as a jam nut to shorten the bolt. Turns out it's grade 8 hardware, and while that's doable, I could do that. With my cheap tap and die setup, it would have taken all day. So I nixed that idea. And it also turns out one of the bolts wasn't a 7/16, so it was a half is in the wrong spot, so I got a bolt that was the wrong size. But Goonies never say die. And this is what I've done. Socket to take up 1.5 inches, socket to take up 1.5 inches, that 5-inch bolt threads right in. 4-inch bolt is too long, I could have stacked some washers, but this hole is not blind, so it doesn't matter, and the threads end right about there, so again, doesn't matter. For the other side, I did not have another 7/16 inch bolt long enough, so I used a 5/16 3/8, I'm not sure what size bolt. And this hole also is not blind, so a washer and a nut ran it all the way through. The threads are kind of sort of halfway engaged, so it's resting on threads, so that's not going to go much of anywhere. None of these are tight yet, so I'm going to snug them up. I have my small block Ford 351 Windsor from the Bronco uncovered and out from its resting place. Going to clean it up, and it will live again in another project that I haven't determined what that project's going to be yet. This isn't the original motor from the Bronco. It's a Jasper rebuild, and I believe it's still solid. I believe what killed it was an electrical issue. I should be good to take it apart, clean it up, put it back together with a proper intake manifold and a carburetor, and drop it in something else and run a one-wire distributor, simple as nails. Hopefully the motor's solid, I don't have to do anything else to it. At that point, it'll be just proof of concept. I'll probably cruise a junkyard tomorrow, I'm not sure. See if I can find an intake manifold from a pickup truck so I don't have to spring on a new intake manifold and a carburetor. We'll see what happens. Alright, we're back. I've got the intake manifold off. Yoink. I also managed to pull the timing cover loose, and I had a poke at the timing cover. Just want to have an eyeball on the timing chain, just see what kind of shape it might be in. And I don't know a lot about timing chains, but it looked okay. But now I've got an issue. And the issue is this timing chain is one piece, and the crank comes through it, and the balancer is on the outside of that timing cover. So now I have to find a pulley puller to pull the sucker off of there, or a balancer puller rather, and an installation tool to put it back on. And while I'm there, I might as well replace that front seal and the gasket. And while I'm in there as well, might as well go ahead and replace the timing chain. Even though it looks okay, the set's like 40 bucks. As a proof of concept, I didn't really want to spend any money on this, but I have been stopped at every turn. This has been a pretty crap weekend for me. Really unproductive. Nobody has any of the parts I need or want. Nothing's in stock. Nobody has the bolts I need. I intended to do a lot of transmission work. Nobody had any of that on hand. So I've just been buffaloed, or you might say stymied, get it, at every turn. Part of the problem being, this is a pickup truck motor from 1992. It has that stuff down in there, which is for emissions control. That's for heating the intake manifold to get the EGR valve and all that stuff working. As a consequence, carbureted intake manifolds aren't meant to work. Nobody wants to sell heads for this. There aren't any junkyards in my neighborhood or anywhere within 15-20 miles that have carbureted Ford small blocks in stock that I can pull a manifold and a carburetor off to do this on the cheap. The cheapest heads I can find are Edelbrock, which will work just fine, I think, but Edelbrock say no way because this is an emissions controlled engine. But all I got to do is look outside the garage window and I see the Bronco sitting out there with a blueprint 408 in it, and it's using a YN Stealth manifold that'll fit that. Another issue I'm having is I was really hoping to do this as solid state as possible, or as mechanical as possible, have as little complexity as possible in this build to get this done. But if you'll notice, there's nowhere on there for a mechanical fuel pump. So yeah, that gives me a little bit of heart, because the Bronco out there, that means for that 408 build, they used a block that did not have a provision for a mechanical fuel pump. So I should be able to find decent and expensive heads for this. I should be able to find decent and expensive intake manifold for this. One wire distributor, electric fuel pump, and I should be good to go. But however, getting to that good to go has proven to be difficult. I don't know if I'm just overcomplicating things or not. Maybe I need to run a Russian. I don't know. Anyway, this is going to be a slow, long, drawn-out process, but Goonies never say die. I'll keep you posted on how it's all going. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Didn't get into any kind of hurry. I did not get into any kind of a hurry. Suppose You go, Goonies never say die.